Yeah.
Okay. I, Leonora can't come today, and Doug Irvin can't come today. So I don't know if who else we have here.
This is Steve. I finally made it, found the link and got
Oh,
in.
there you are. Okay, that's much better. Okay, well,
There's
I've got a
Tony.
big question for us for today. I sent you the outline, which included even if you hadn't gotten yet to book four. Lucretius says this remarkable thing that the way to know something is through our perceptions, and they are the final decision about truth. And yet, he's talked a lot in book two and into book three about atoms. And atoms are, by his own account, invisible. They're so tiny they can never be seen. And yet he goes on to characterize them about the kind of motion that they have, a kind of shape that they have. And he says things like there are an infinite number of any one shape, but there is not an infinite number of shapes. Well, how does he know all about those atoms when they are invisible?
He talks about dust and seeing dust in the sunlight. The what does he call them? Dust motes or
Modes.
Yeah,
motes.
yeah.
So maybe that's a clue or a hint for how he might think of atoms, because we sometimes we can't see dust at all unless nature shines a light on it.
Well,
His methodology for testing the veracity of his assertions is not quite scientific. I mean, he's not keen to make declarations, to put forward hypotheses which are subject to specific concrete tests.
Yeah, so he's not
So
not a scientist in the modern sense, is he?
no, he's extremely empirical. I mean, he reasons through analogy. He suggests that if one of his hypotheses are correct, it's by virtue of an analog relationship derived from something he observes and something more concrete and something the reader can recognize as being true.
So
he's-
how
I'm
can he
sorry.
know about the different shapes?
I think even more fundamental to him than sensation is reason. He sees something which raises questions in his mind and leads through a process of what he calls reason. This must be the explanation. This is the only explanation. Sometimes he considers other possible explanations. The Stoics say this. The Greeks said this. Well, but none of that can be correct because it doesn't conform to a kind of test of reason. So yes, I think he distinguishes between sensation and reason and gives reason the higher place in his methodology, even though reason has a special definition for him. It's simply what makes sense, what makes what makes a good argument, I guess.
Well, what are the things that make sense?
What are the things that make sense? Well, all this business about the swerve, for example, or just the fact that he begins with the notion that atoms natural course is to fall in a perpendicular manner. But if that happened, then nothing would ever congeal, nothing would ever come together, and you would have no substance, and therefore there has to be something happening that causes these things or allows these things to come together. I mean, it all seems very theoretical, and yet if you accept, certain premises, I guess it makes sense.
I disagree about the priority of rational thinking processes versus the information derived empirically from the senses. I think he clearly states in a couple different places that the senses are the ultimate reality. They're the ultimate source of information. Hello? Whoops, something happened?
No, you're there.
Okay. Anyway, and which raised in my mind, at least, the idea that if all the ultimate source of all our knowledge is empirical, comes from sense of smell, sense of from sight, etc., then how do we know that mathematical calculations are valid and true in whatever sense mathematicians consider them to be true? How do we know that scientific contemporary scientific inferences are true if they're deduced from formulas and testable hypotheses? It seems to me.
But he doesn't have any thinking of that sort, does he, Ron?
I'm sorry. I'm a little hard of hearing. Could you say again?
Yeah, he doesn't talk in terms of hypotheses.
No, but I shouldn't have drifted in that direction. I'm thinking more about mathematical formula. I mean, maybe geometry can be deduced from angles and lengths and whatever, which in turn are inferred from the senses. But I think slightly higher mathematics, say algebra, is not so easily referenced back to some sensual source.
Okay, but he doesn't talk about that either. I mean, he barely mentions anything about mathematics.
Right. To me,
but he does.
One of the things I noted when I was reading, again and again, Rolf Humphreys translates, I suppose, de rerum natura into the way things are. That phrase, the way things are, appears again and again and again, all through the 6 books. Well, I'm not sure if it does in the last one, but probably does. Anyway, what is the way things are?
Well, I agree with those who say that he certainly relies on one's senses and says you should have confidence in your senses. But he also indicates that you can bring predilections to your senses that obscure what you're actually seeing, hearing, smelling. So you got to be careful.
Yeah, he does go on to talk in book 4 about illusions, so that you can be mistaken.
Forrest, are you concluding that Lucretius did not have any scientific resources at his disposal in his time?
Yeah, I'm suggesting that the kind of thinking that he does is not what we would call scientific thinking.
Yeah.
Right.
I agree with he's talking about things that everyone, quote unquote, can observe.
Well, that's the first step in scientific thinking, but it's only the first step, and that's the only step he takes. And as far as deducing from that, I don't see any more reason for uh, his readers to believe in his explanation of what's going on than to believe in that the gods are doing it. I don't think he gives any more empirical support uh, for his elaborate atomistic explanation than a priest would give for for the religious explanation.
Charlie, what did you say? Charlie,
Yeah.
what did you say?
What I was playing off of what you said. What did he mean by the way things are?
Right.
I was simply saying that he was arguing from things general people could observe in their own experience, and as Richard was saying, that that's just phase one of scientific thinking. Agreed, but what's you have to keep thinking. Well, he's talking about 2,000 years ago or more, before scientific thinking was really quote unquote established. Um, and so when he talks about the universe being made up of universes, plural, which modern science continually seems to corroborate, it that our galaxy is just one of trillions of galaxies. Hello. That anyway, it's astonishing as a first step, if you will. And in the end, we all, I'm from Missouri, the show me state. And so we always joke about, well, if you can show it to me and I believe it, then it must be true, right?
So what is it that he observes?
Well, like take the worms that come out of a compost pile. I thought that was a telling example. I always used to marvel at that when we had a big compost pile. And lo and behold, just exactly what a composter wants to see is the spontaneous creation of worms. Well, where are they? It's not as if birds picked them up someplace and dropped them in my compost pile. They emerged naturally out of the compost pile. So I found that a rather convincing piece of evidence that atoms can coagulate in different new forms.
I know little about compost, but I thought the remarkable observation that Lucretius made is that everything is random, and I thought that was kind of quite a great logical leap that he made from some remarkable deductive reasoning, I guess. The randomness of the universe, and I think he hits upon so many things. He not only says there are other planets and universes, but there are people on those other planets, et cetera, which is probably true.
Yeah.
Just froze.
Can you hear?
He got stuck.
It's like the Indiana.
And then
go ahead.
Go
ahead, Lance.
Yeah, I was saying that he touches on so many different elements that have been scientifically validated, from so many thousands of years ago. It's quite remarkable. I just chalk it up to just remarkable deductive reasoning by Lucretius. Really remarkable.
Was it deductive reasoning or observations, though? He just seems to be talking about a lot of things. And as I read, I kept going back to the title of the book, The Way Things Are. That's just what he was saying. Yep. I thought everything was neutral until I read the part about women's approach to sex. That seemed to be very negative, and it was a little bit jarring to me.
Yeah, there's a lot that he's not telling us, I think.
I haven't read the dirty parts of the book yet, but
Keep reading.
Lance, I'm kind of surprised by what you said.
yeah,
Because it seems to me that Lucretius says just the opposite.
yeah.
That you look around the world with your eyes and you smell and so on, and nothing is random.
Well, except for swerves, maybe.
Well, I'm talking about looking around the world, and you look at how it is, the way things are, and there's nothing random. You don't have a baby that in a week later becomes a teenager, and a week later becomes an old man or an old woman.
What he does postulate is the existence of seeds. Everything comes from seeds, and they follow everyone follows the nature of the seed from which they were derived, as I get it. But I think that he's in his description of how atoms come together and move, there is an incredible element of randomness in that. And you're going to make me look through my book now to find that.
Or is it chaos? I mean, random, but I don't know. I think random can be seen in a couple different ways.
Can I just jump in here?
Yeah.
Forrest, you seem to have disappeared from our screens. Are you under the table now, or what?
I don't know why.
Well, I think it's disconcerting.
Yeah. What have I done?
It's those damn atoms.
Yeah, those atoms have reconstituted themselves.
If that isn't random, I don't know what is.
I've turned it into a camera. Yeah.
Well, your camera is focused on the floor right
now. We're looking at the floor.
Yeah,
we're getting quite a tour of your study here.
Yeah. How can I change that?
Behind the camera and aiming at your face.
I think you need to.
Camera is.
You need to be looking directly into the camera. I don't know where the camera is on your machine, of course, but it's on. It's just looking at the floor.
Yeah.
So while we're helping Forrest locate his
Forrest.
I guess if you're okay with it, we can live with it.
Maybe you should get on the floor. No.
So it's saying Val's iPad, it appears to be the camera. So whatever you may be looking at, a screen, it's the camera is on Val's iPad.
Yeah, I see that.
Are you seeing us on your screen?
I'm seeing you, yeah. I'm sorry about all this.
It's all right.
No, you don't need to see me.
That's helping. You're got us up to the tabletop. We now hanging on top.
Now we have a picture. We see an iPhone plugged in.
Yeah.
So,
could it be that it's on camera rather than well, I don't know.
Now it's back to the floor. Now it's on the floor. So whatever you moved went down. Pick it back up. While we're doing this, I had this random thought. How about two twins that are born right after the other, and they're either identical, but anybody who's known identical twins quickly comes to distinguish between A and B, right? There's some microscopic difference that people who know them well can distinguish.
Right.
Right. And then there's the unidentical twins who are born at the same moment, and there's nothing like them. We had in my grade school class, we had 4 sets of twins in my 30 person grade school class. Wow. 2 of them were unidentical. One was a big bulky guy and uncoordinated, and the other guy was smaller and the most nimble athlete you could find. The other 3 were all girls. Marcia Cook, Jane Coring, and I forget the third one's name. Anyway, they were quote unquote all identical, but everybody knew instantly the difference between Marcia and Nancy Cook and Mary and Jane Coring. And so, query, doesn't that support both the randomness of it's the seed comes from the same seed, or does it? It comes from a different two eggs or one egg. I don't know.
Non-identical twins are from two eggs.
Okay.
And identical twins are from one egg.
But even among identical sperm and egg, there's a difference.
You can tell the difference after time, yes.
So that's a randomness arrangement, if you will, of the atoms in that particular seed that corroborates what I think Lucretius is saying.
But Charlie, the randomness seems to apply to behavior, not to the structural nature of their bodies, because the identicalness of them is apparently very much the same, but you can tell the difference because of their personalities. So the seeds are producing different personalities.
Well, I would only submit that the rest of us, if you put the faces up there, would immediately recognize Nancy, and just by looking at the two of them. Oh, that's Nancy.
So there is some variation.
Yeah.
Yes, but still their physical appearance is very similar.
Yes.
So therefore the seeds produced a similar result. Whereas you can, if even we were to assume that the twins were absolutely identical in appearance and you could not distinguish between the two, you would be able to distinguish through their behavior and their personality and their senses. And so the seeds within them are producing different personalities
based on the attributes of the parents.
I think it doesn't look
attributes of them.
Lucretius does say somewhere that there are no two things that are absolutely identical, that there are no two shells, there are no two grains of sand.
But there are variations of the same
there
thing.
There are always variations between two of the same. He doesn't use the term species, but we might use that. That's where I suppose isn't that a form of randomness, that there's nothing there, you can't reproduce the same organism exactly like another organism.
Right, but that in Lucretius's world, that sort of makes sense, because everything is made up of atoms, and how do you get the atoms to arrange themselves in such a way that the second thing is absolutely identical? I mean, the statistical odds of that are almost impossible, I would think, in his world, that they are my atoms are different from my sister's atoms, and even if I had a twin, they'd be different. So we're not the same.
Right.
But once again, the atoms are producing different behavior, whereas the atoms might have similar structure. What they are producing, the byproduct, is going to be different.
How do you know about all those atoms, Tony?
How do I know about the atoms?
Yeah.
This is just deductive elementary reasoning.
Lucy, back to you. You were the one who said things are random.
I don't think I said.
No, that was Lance, I think.
Yeah, I said things are random, and I'm sticking with that.
Oh, that's right.
Forrest, my notes, this is from book 2. I can't find the passage I'm looking for, but my notes say that the world is a result of random atomic motions, and you can't attribute it's senseless to attribute that to the work of the gods. So if the atoms are in motion and they're not moving per any particular path at any particular point in time, they're random.
I think,
and they coalesce. He also says they coalesce into larger objects when they find themselves bouncing rapidly between other closely packed atoms. So I think that's random.
well, in the sense that there's no overarching intelligence that is directing things to be the way they are. In the absence of that, what comes about is a random pattern, I suppose.
Yeah,
I don't know.
He does not believe in a creative God, and he doesn't believe in a God that affects nature. So you don't have a designer, to put it in sort of Christian view. You don't have a designer so of course the atoms are random in that sense.
But you look around the world, and he gives so many examples of that, of calves being born from cows, and little frisky lambs that I used to love to watch. They are not only born from the ewes, but the ewes know which of the lambs are theirs.
Right.
And if a lamb comes to a ewe that's not its mother, the ewe bucks it away. And because the ewe knows that that's not its offspring.
Because of the senses.
Yeah, because of the senses.
It must have some kind of special smell or something.
Yeah.
Well,
even though the farmers typically put marks on the back of the adults, in blue or red or whatever, they don't know what color they are, and the lambs don't know. So it must be some kind of smell that's special.
Maybe it's an instinct, I suppose. I don't think, would that instinct apply to human mothers? If a mother gave birth under anesthesia, let's say, and her child was put in a nursery with 12 others until she came out of it, would she be able to pick that child, her child, out of the?
I don't think so. I think we have too many examples where babies have gone to the wrong mother.
Sure. Right. Cows are superior in that way to humans.
Animals have extrasensory perceptions that we're not given.
Sure. And now we know they can scratch their backs as well.
Yes, with a stick.
Horses can run faster than human beings.
Yeah.
The contradiction and the argument against randomness, I think, is his description of what seeds do. Everything follows their nature is circumscribed by the seed from which they come.
But you don't need to know about the seeds of the cows or the sheep, do you? I mean, literally.
Personally, I have no interest in knowing, but.
But visually, human beings can tell the difference, but the animals have more of an extrasensory ability than human beings.
Yeah, I guess I'm clearly pushing you today, not just leaving an open question. I'm pushing you to recognize that Lucretius spends a lot of his poem talking about the regularities of nature.
And
way on toward the end, but where you probably haven't read yet, he talks about how thunderstorms come about and thunderbolts and earthquakes and lava that comes out of Mount Vesuvius, and the way the Nile floods every fall, is it, or every spring? I forget which. Anyway, example after example of things in nature that happen that can be explained naturally. But then a lot of it is, he seems to know a lot about farming. He knows about, I was chuckled when he said, if you look at the sun, that might turn you blind. They knew about that.
And he wrote about sex.
Yeah, about sex, of course. Yeah, yeah.
And how to make babies.
So what he observes around him, the way things are is that there are just regularities in nature, and we don't get freak animals.
Well, he ascribes that to the great mother goddess. Somewheres in book 2, I can't find it now, but somewheres he talks about the great mother goddess, and she's the mother of all the life on earth. So, I mean, Mother Nature, that's the way things are.
Yeah, that's a kind of a metaphor. Mother Nature. Right. We talk about Mother Nature,
sure,
but we don't believe it's a real mother. It's a metaphor.
And it certainly isn't a prime mover in any sense of God, in any godlike sense. Well, but he, of course, yes, there is regularity in nature. He doesn't account for any exceptions to that, but there are exceptions, as we well know.
Like what?
Well, that a child is born with one arm, or with.
But we know how that happens.
Well, we know how that happens. He didn't know how that happened, and he didn't seem to give any credence to it happening at all.
Well, he knew that some people are crazy. He speaks about that.
Yes, he does.
Yeah.
But for all of the attention he focuses on physical characteristics, he doesn't address, I don't think, deformity and non-conformity. It's not a big point, but I'm just
he does, in the sense of he believes in evolution, that humans evolved from messed up animals that just didn't survive. So he says we humans did not just appear fully formed the way we are now. So he acknowledged that previously there were forms of humans that just didn't work, which may be deformities. I mean, artists picked this up apparently in the Middle Ages and painted scenes based on Lucretius, these creatures not being human that evolved into human beings. Of course, we're talking, mentioning a word evolution, and Lucretius is, he would not even know that word.
Yeah.
He did talk about ugly women, though, being not built as well as others, and compensating for it by putting a lot of perfume on them and things like that.
I think this is his generally messed up view of sex.
Yeah.
He talks about language as well, and its evolution, and the diversity of languages that exists. I mean, they're sustained and supported in community centers, and they're used like other public goods to support and to sustain small economies, small groups of people who are mutually supportive and mutually needful. So not only does he posit a kind of evolutionary process, he explains a little bit about where it comes from and what it's useful for.
Mhm.
One of the things it seems to me that he's used to validate a lot of his claims is simply the ambition of the list of things that he takes on to make sense of. The things in the everyday world that he notes, he observes, and then he, looking underneath, explains in terms of the interaction of these constantly moving little atomic entities, these motes. So, I mean, what he uses as an epistemological basis is the uniformity of the underlying explanation, its breadth and its extent in terms of its application to most everything: sex, volcanic action, thunderstorms, etc. I mean, there's nothing that he's not prepared to explain to us in this book. I think that's where the title comes from as well.
Right.
Yes.
But I think we're getting too hung up on detail here, on looking for consistency or inconsistency in his so-called scientific, kind of quasi-scientific observations, because isn't the real point that the impact that all of this should have on the way we live? That is, the this is the way we should live and the way we should die. And whether you believe that he's covered all the bases or not, it provides an alternative cosmology and a different way of viewing life and death. I think that's the important thing here, that we should take from this book.
Well, certainly that's the kind of overall purpose of his whole poem, isn't it? He's trying to persuade Memmius to learn about this, about the way things are and why they are that way, so that he can live a better life. But Richard, I'd like to hold off on that until we wrestle a little bit more with what we've been dealing with. Because if you acknowledge that the way things are is not random, but nature is filled with regularities. And Lance, even if you want to say there are some random things, certainly you would agree that most of what happens in our life and with ourselves and with people and so on seems to not be random, but seems to have a kind of regularity. We age in a kind of regular way. We get diseases and we find their sources. If there's a car accident, we can try to figure out who's at fault. If you study birds, if you love birds, you know about when the hummingbirds come and what kind of sugar water they like, and when they fly back to Central America or wherever they fly, and so on and so on. But how does this then relate to what he says about the atoms? That's what I'd like you to talk about that connection.
So atoms are in constant motion, and that's random.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But the atoms are not in themselves structurally random. What's moving
the
is
motion.
not random. Right.
Yeah. So is it that all of these regularities and irregularities and randomnesses and unrandomnesses in the universe or in the cosmos, is that the same for what's inside of us?
Oh, sure. Yeah. But he says, that these atoms then congregate. They form objects, he says again and again. Objects are made up of atoms.
Right. But where did
he says the atoms bounce off of each other and can coalesce?
They coalesce, yeah, that's the word.
But why do they
the bouncing off of one another is the randomness of it.
Yeah.
But why do they come to rest on a particular entity? Why do my atoms say, "Hey, I like being Charlie's hand. I'm going to stick around and be that"? Why doesn't it turn into a foot suddenly?
Right.
Why doesn't my
and
why am I left-handed as opposed to my right-handed?
Can someone quickly explain the distinction, if there is one, between an atom and a seed?
I think Lucretius refers to the atom as a seed.
Are they the same thing in his mind? All right. The atom is the seed.
Yeah.
That confuses me because an atom in and of itself
doesn't grow.
Is nothing. It's a first beginning, but until it actually joins with other atoms, it doesn't amount to anything. So how can we say that the atom is a seed?
Because nor is the atom alive. He says the atoms have are immortal. They're not alive.
If all atoms are seeds,
material matter.
I took it that seeds are collections of atoms.
That's the way I took it.
That you don't have an atom by itself doing something.
Right.
Or if he mentions
with
that
other atoms,
Lucretius doesn't see it as multiple matter. I think from what I picked up, Lucretius sees the atom as the beginning, finite.
But even before the seed.
Yes.
But then that's the same as even before the atom.
But you also have the motes. Aren't motes semi-particles, parts of atoms, or is it the other way around?
Is this whole thing with atoms exactly what's going on within us? The whole thing, everything outside is atoms, everything inside of us is atoms. It's all
different atoms.
The same. It's just different.
Yeah.
Atoms that have somehow coalesced into what? Into what? Not the human body, because the human body doesn't appear whole. There's a natural process that creates, that builds the human body.
And when the body is gone, there's a dissolution of those atoms.
Right, but the body is still a collection of atoms.
That's just the way things are. We're just all nothing.
The motes become remote.
So just get over it, right?
What I want to understand, if atoms are always in motion and they're random, etc., and some of them have decided to become a blue pen, and the others have decided to become an orange pair of scissors, and they decide to stay there week after week after week. I come up to my desk and lo and behold, there they are again, those same atoms in the same shape and form as I remember them. And if they're random, why didn't they become, a pencil? They said, I'm out of here. I don't like being a scissors anymore. I don't like being orange. I want to be blue. No.
Sounds very political to me.
Yeah, Charlie, you're right. He doesn't have an explanation for it.
Charlie,
Lucretius tells us that all atoms can't combine with all other atoms, that they're combinations to form seeds or molecules or whatever, motes, is selective.
But if they're randomly collecting and always moving, why do they come to rest, for a long time?
Well, they have books and,
but it's not
let me interrupt, Charlie. You're talking about things that are made by human beings.
That's
Yeah.
yes. That's an artifact that's built
Yeah.
by human beings out
Human
of
beings
something.
put those atoms together,
It's a
whether it's
byproduct.
lead or plastic, it made the scissors.
Right.
All right, but I understand how we are aging, quote unquote, collectively. But the scissors also age over time; they get dull.
Oh, sure, if that's aging also, but that's made by human beings. But everything we make ages also.
But
And nature.
that's a good point, though, because it raises the question that I don't think he answers, which is the human element in creation. That is, a scissors is composed of elements, aluminum, let's say, or I don't know what scissors are made out of, but or plastic.
Yeah.
Plastic isn't found in the natural universe. Plastic is a composition, an artificially created collection of atoms, isn't it?
Yeah, well, he wouldn't know about that, but he does talk about iron and bronze and copper and tin, and the way that they get combined by human beings.
To make
You
something.
know, bronze is not a natural occurring element, is it?
No.
A mixture.
If you say so.
Amalgam.
So I want you to look at this. This is a piece of fool's gold, Pyrex, or whatever you call it, that I dug up in a field in Michigan when I was about 8 years old. And we thought we were rich. And nothing has changed in 80 years. The stone is exactly as you see it, made by random eons ago, random molecules, atoms, and so forth. And here we are. It's not changed at all.
But that's because you kept it inside under a roof.
I will give you $10,000 for that, Charlie.
I got to check.
No questions asked
today.
But the very great philosopher Neil Young said, "Rust never sleeps."
Yeah, that's true.
Okay,
Charlie, Forrest, I have one question and a follow-up to your statement that everything ages.
Yeah.
I think certain elements do not age.
That
certain elements and metals do not age. Is that correct? I mean, the planet itself will, in billions of years, dissolve into multiple gazillion atoms. But is that aging if it's destroyed?
I think that he would say that everything ages, including oxygen and nitrogen and so on, because those are all made up of atoms. And the only thing that never ages is atoms.
Right.
But so collections of atoms might be very long lasting. They might last for eons.
So in the form of this element that Charlie is holding, that appears not to age, but in gazillion years it will dissolve.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
What about the gods? Do the gods age? I don't think they do.
No, the gods don't.
No. They're like atoms. Huh?
Well, he also said the gods don't have an impact on anything, so it doesn't really matter.
Yeah. Okay, well let me just push you one more time. What leads him to think that atoms have different shapes?
Well, I think he uses his senses to kind of try to figure that out. He does it with the sense of taste. I think that there's sharp atoms and there are dull atoms and things of that ilk, and he kind of reasons from that they have different shapes. I think.
And do different shapes produce different things?
Yeah.
Well, maybe
Yes.
it's because everything has a different shape. Everything in the universe, everything living has a different shape. So why not say that?
So does a different shape produce the senses? Does a different shape produce thought? Does it take a certain kind of shape to produce a human being?
Well,
How is he coming to that conclusion?
some shapes are pretty circular, and the reason that one knows that is because you look at clouds, and as the clouds drift across the sky, you can, try to make some look like animals, a favorite pastime of children. But then after a while, the shapes change, and what was one animal becomes a different animal, or becomes a tree, or whatever. So those must be really atoms that don't kind of cling together very tightly. They cling together, but very loosely. And then on the other hand, there are things like rocks, which are very hard, and things like marble, which you use to make the temples out of. And it's very hard to kind of break those up. So they must be very rough-edged atoms clinging to each other. You follow that line of reasoning?
Is Lucretius concluding without evidence that it must be different shapes that produce different products?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
That a round atom will not coalesce with a jagged edged one. A non-dense, what we would say, something that doesn't have density, is not going to join together with something that does.
Yeah. Although, Richard, it might get surrounded by jagged things.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Well,
that's another, that's just another possibility.
It's just the way things are.
So that, things like rocks are very hard. Things like our skin, not very hard, You can move it around.
So is that an extension of the old saying, likes attract likes? And therefore, the ones that are intensely alike each other, they become a very hard surface.
Right.
And so here we are, 10 of us on the screen reading about Lucretius, and we are alike in the sense that we have an interest in the subject or curiosity, and yet we're all wildly different. So the concept of likes attracting likes was helpful to me in the sense that may explain why some things are hard and soft.
But I still don't understand how atoms produce the senses and thought and the individual nature of each human being.
Yeah, he does. He can't really explain that, can he?
No, but he goes into such lengths and such beautiful prose describing the structure and the makeup of material matter, and describes the beauty of nature and everything, but he can't quite address. Before we started our classes, I sent Forrest a couple of questions when I just previewed the book. And I questioned and I wondered if this would be answered in the course of our classes. If death means the absolute dissolution of our being into constituent atoms, Why does he consider this finality a comfort rather than a cause for distress for those who seek eternal individualistic life? How can he assume that this theory is the answer?
Okay, well that gets us to
Book 5.
that gets us to Richard's question, doesn't it? This whole thing is meant to improve the life of Memmius and anybody else who reads it.
Right.
But it doesn't dispel the distress, because I've presented this to some friends, and I mentioned Lucretius' theory that we should all take comfort and that we're just a natural part of the process of nature. Oh gosh, he says that. Oh no, I'd like to think that I go on somehow.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I mean, he's coming to quite a profound conclusion.
And
my thought was, Tony, that he had a remarkable grasp of the obvious when it came to death. I mean, it's like before you were born, you were kind of dead, and you're going to be dead afterwards, and just take comfort in that. I didn't take a lot of comfort in that myself.
I think that's the $64,000 question here that I would have for Lucretius, is what makes him so certain that this is the answer to everyone's distress on the subject.
Well, I would recommend a book by Julian Barnes, British essayist and novelist, called Nothing to Be Afraid of, which is precisely this. He is a materialist. He believes that there is nothing, and he is trying to make us make others who may not believe that. He's through rational argument, he's trying to say there is nothing to fear. All the things that we fear will be gone, will be gone, and therefore all consciousness, etc. And yet, I don't think that people will necessarily take comfort. That all people will take comfort from that, from knowing that what will happen to all of us is really nothing more than what existed before we were born.
What happened to any animal?
Yes, but once you have experienced consciousness, the idea of permanent unconsciousness is distressing.
Yeah.
It's hard for us to give up.
Yeah, but life. Of course, their culture was different. I mean, as I've been reading about this, the ancient Greeks and Romans thought everybody went down to Hades and went up one of the rivers, and if you were heroic enough, you might go over to the Elysian fields, but everybody else was kind of in a real pickle in Hades. So he's just, I think, trying to say, don't worry, your soul's dead, you're not going to Hades, and that should make you happy.
Yeah. Well, right.
Especially when he compares it to sleep. He says, you're not afraid, you don't have any issues when you're sleeping, and that's what death is. You're asleep.
There are a lot of reasons why people resist that, including the idea that, hey, I'm making an effort to live a good life. And then there's Donald Trump. Why should we both? I don't take any comfort in the fact that we both end up on the same manure pile. Worm food.
Remember, no politics. No.
I know. All right. Well, substitute. But I'm saying that I think that is a difficult thing for many people to feel, to take comfort in, and I think he is too quick to dismiss that and to deride those who can't give up some sense that there must be more than this. And maybe it's because they haven't lived the life that he says one should live in order to appreciate all that there is. They haven't, applied their reason. They haven't lived simply. They haven't followed the prescription of Epicurus. But whatever it is, I don't think that he really deals very effectively with the resistance to it, to that way of thinking, to his way of thinking.
And that's why the monks, early Christians, etc., when they discovered this, they buried it in some monkish library for 1,000 years, so that people wouldn't have to wrestle with this when the Christian idea was trying to be sold.
But could there be some comfort in knowing that we are going to, when we end here, we are going to be much like nature and, like a dying tree?
Well,
we will leave behind memories of what we stood for, thought for, our intellect somehow is going to, somewhere.
I think people can arrive at that conclusion.
Yeah.
It helps, of course, to be very old and maybe very sick. If you feel that you still have life in you, I think it's difficult to accept that simply ending. Hey, I'm not done yet. It has nothing to do with the afterlife idea. It just has to do with this life idea. I'm having too good a time to want this to end.
I'm not going any place until I can put my name on the Kennedy Center. So.
Hey.
Take the idea of, the Bible, Ecclesiastes or whatever, says dust to dust, right? And we all know people or have this idea that I'd like my ashes, quote unquote, spread on some place that we value. And so some people might know that, okay, Charlie's ashes are over there and Ann's ashes are over there and so forth. But the idea is that you take your dust to dust and move it where you think it might have some significance for the future. My compost pile.
And after your grandchildren and their children, probably, unless you were famous and have a name that goes down in history, nobody will remember you. And of course, at some point, the sun is going to burn up the earth and all will be lost. All the great art and music and so on.
Well,
and what happens to the gods?
I think we have just as hard a time imagining what that is, what that would be like, as we have imagining what our own demise would be like. It's not even necessarily that you resist it; it's just that you can't grasp it. I think I've had friends who were facing death who would say exactly that, have said exactly that. It's the hard thing is just not understanding what it is that's going to happen here. Now, some people say, "Oh, I'm up for the next adventure. It'll be interesting." Some people say. Well, if you can convince yourself of that, then good.
I didn't realize I was signing up for the most depressing Chesapeake Forum class that ever existed.
I remember, and Forrest will remember this. my freshman year at Lake Forest College, there was a big convocation. The topic was death and dying. And I remember I'm 17 years old. Do I want to spend, a weekend contemplating death and dying? No, I didn't go. Forrest probably had to be there. But
He was the keynote speaker.
I don't know. But I know he's long gone. Anyway, I don't have it. Obviously, I have no insights here. I just have feelings.
Well, maybe if
Notions.
any of us go, you can check back with us and let us know what's happening.
Well, yeah.
So I take it that most of you agree that you're going to die at some point, and most of you agree that will be simply the cessation of your life processes, that you will no longer be able to move your body, and you will no longer be able to think or dream. I assume that most of you would agree that that's what happens.
You're leaving
Yes.
out cryogenics.
Minimally, yes.
Yeah.
I've threatened
Wow.
my daughter that I'm going to be frozen and be a burden to her for decades to come. So,
Lance, you can pull the plug on the refrigerator.
The thing I don't understand about cryogenics is why do they cut off your head? That would seem to be something you're going to need. And not only are they going to have to figure out how to bring you back to life, they're going to just have to figure out how to reattach your head. Why? Anyway,
I'm going to get a second opinion.
Interesting that when we've switched to this topic, there's been a lot of laughter.
well, that's one way to deal with it. Laugh.
Yes. Humor helps in this subject.
It's
Well, don't forget, Lucretius is following Epicurus, and if you look at how Epicurus died, he was cheerful to the end. So they say.
Whereas I'll bet Lucretius wasn't. If he died of kidney stones, as I think I read somewhere, or bladder stones or something. Oh, that was Epicurus? He was cheerful even with kidney stones. Well, good for him. Wow.
That, nobody knows really.
Okay.
Bob,
Yes.
have you some thoughts about this? I see your head bobbing up and down now and then.
I had a pretty big heart attack a bunch of years ago, and I can assure everybody that there was no light at the end of the tunnel. I went black and stayed black for I don't know how many periods of time. And when I came back with a dream, and the dream had something to do with Native Americans. And what I found out was what that cold feeling was. It had to do with the device that they put me in. I think they have one up at Yale too, but the one that allows you to be frozen so that you can sustain yourself or be sustained and come back to it. And the doctors would come back to me and look at me and say, God, I don't understand how you're still alive. You had 6 heartbreaks, 6 times your heart stopped. You were literally dead, and you kept coming back. And I've never been particularly religious, but certainly has always made me feel respectful of those who believe that there's something out there that holds you back and keeps you from going nowhere, disappearing. That's why I love this philosophy, because I just think about it, and I have been very lucky, so they tell me.
Back
Oh.
in the early 60s, late 60s, early 70s, there was a very popular book by Elizabeth Kubler-Ross on death and
Yes.
dying,
Yes.
which I
Yeah.
assiduously avoided reading, and now somehow I have this urge to read it. Um,
Yeah.
So is it Bob?
Yes.
So this what you just said kind of demonstrates the different directions people's minds take them when they're in the positions that you were in.
Hmm.
You're either going to go towards something magical, or you're going to go in the direction of defining the scientific explanation for why you came back 4 or 5 times.
Right.
And perhaps your heart was structured in such a way that it was able to sustain those number of causes and come back again and see it in scientific terms, while others are going to go in the direction of explaining it as something, divine intervention.
Mm. Yeah. I think I've borrowed a little bit of both. If somebody wants to explain this to me, what happened to me, and I'm still alive, very much so, I'll take it. But if somebody wants to explain it in a more ethereal, uh, you know, philosophical way, I will take that too.
Yeah.
I do know that I'm a dog guy. My wife and I are both dog people, and when they pass, we take their remains to Cape Cod, and we scatter them in this particular spot. And that's important to me. We both go up there every year, thereabouts, and we sit and look and wonder what happened to those ashes. And as far as we're concerned, we can make that up in different ways. We can call it a bunch of ashes just piling around and piddling in the water, or that there's something else there that we have to respect. And when we get up, we say goodbye to our dogs, and off they go.
But that gives you a spiritual satisfaction. It's the same satisfaction that some people derive from visiting their loved ones at cemeteries. That's where the atoms were placed, but the being is not there. The being could be anywhere.
Right.
Ironically, I don't believe in heaven or hell, but I believe in the Rainbow Bridge, which is a concept they've created for our dogs. And it's this is a very sad class.
I don't feel it that way. I feel like the sense is that the atoms that descend from whoever we are, or whatever it was, just are redistributed, and they're out there collecting again in some new entity. And therefore there is I find it sort of physiologically, not scientifically, but sort of in a sense that the atoms are perpetual, and they are in one form and then they're not, but the atoms are still around there, and they can coalesce, hopefully, with other ones that are like us, for example, and form a new person or entity. It could be a dog, it could be a human being, it could be a piece of fool's gold that some idiot keeps for 100 years.
Well, this is so, Charlie. You're speaking of a form of reincarnation.
Yes. If atoms are perpetual and so on and so forth, then where do they go when we turn to dust? Well, they reform in some way. And lo and behold, a bird comes by and eats the grasses from which the ashes are scattered, and then goes and drops a dropping someplace that becomes, lo and behold, a worm, which somebody eats, and then that becomes a baby.
Gee, you make it sound so great.
It's nice being practical, you know?
Richard, will you remind us of the book by Julian Barnes?
I have it right here.
There it is. Nothing to be frightened of.
Okay. And
Nothing
then
to be frightened of.
I recently read another novel of his called the sense of an ending, I think it is.
Yes.
The sense of an ending. Also, he's just a beautiful writer.
Everything he does is worth reading.
And there's a lot of he has his characters do a lot of pondering about life. So I would recommend both of those books for people to read. Put on your list of.
Yeah, there's another one called Level.
Julian Barnes, wonderful writer.
Yes, here. And I think I will look afterwards to see if he makes mention of
Lucretius. Yeah, I wouldn't have picked up on that when I read it. I've actually read it twice.
Yeah, but it's certainly
still looking
harmonious.
Still looking for comfort.
And also Rovelli's The Order of Time is another one that addresses the phenomenon of chaos theory and random atoms moving constantly.
Yeah. Well, I was going to hold off the topic of death for the third class, but here we've done it. So I've got to do some hard thinking about another good discussion.
Yeah, where do we go from here?
Yeah.
But I think we've all enjoyed this so much. Maybe we could just go on.
Yeah. Well, we might come back, and we might like to come back and fill in some of the holes in our discussion, because I think there are some.
You don't think we've covered everything there is to say about death?
I suggest next time.
I'm amazed when I chose this book. I had no idea how rich it was. There's much more substance in it than I remember from my reading long time ago. I think I just read it on my own. I don't remember it being in a course. Oh, I might have taught it actually. Richard, did I teach this in Western Civ?
Not to me, no.
No. Okay, I kept changing my reading. So
you may have taught it, but I didn't learn it. Maybe that's what I should say. Could I suggest?
I always wanted to read new things. So I know I read Lucretius in the past, but I've really forgotten.
Could I suggest, Forrest, that I think we might benefit from some discussion of this is all in 3, I think, book 3: mind, body, spirit, soul.
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah.
I found that hard to follow because the terms kept shifting for me.
Yeah.
And maybe we could talk about that some next week.
Yeah. Very good. So try to think about that. He talks about mind/soul as it gets translated by Humphreys, and sometimes the mind seems to include the soul. Sometimes the soul seems to be quite separate.
Right.
The soul seems to be somehow more related to the body than the mind is, but it's not very clear. So that would be a good thing to work on.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. I have signed up for a course in the spring, Epicurus and Stoicism. Stoicism. There's some other good essays on Stoicism. Seneca, certainly, Roman, and Marcus Aurelius. But Epicurus is kind of the earliest pure form. So just alert you to that. That's down the road. So mind and soul next week.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks for
all your good work today.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Have a good week.
Gold is up 1.75% today.
All right. Yeah, okay. All right. 15,000. 15.